She married Othus Scarborough.
Mary Agnes?
Mm-hmm.
Let me get this. I'm not ready yet. Wait a minute. Halfway between.
Now, what's that?
That's just a tape recorder. Okay. Today we're going to interview Florence Honeywell Patrick. It's April 25th, 2002. Hello, Florence. How are you today?
I'm all right, thank you.
Why don't you tell me something about yourself? When were you born?
I was born in Artesia,
Okay.
Florida, and I was taken up the beach in a horse wagon up to the lighthouse when I was 12 days old, and that's where I landed.
Okay. And what was your birth date?
January the 21st, 1909.
Okay. And who were your parents? Your father's name?
Clinton P. Honeywell,
Okay.
and my mother's name is Gertrude Wilson
Okay.
Honeywell.
And your father, as I understood, came here from Baltimore, Maryland.
Yes, that's where he came from.
In about 1884. And did he work at the lighthouse? Was he a lighthouse keeper?
Well, he wasn't at first. He was just working with the lighthouse and the rest of them. And then finally he became the lighthouse, and he was there about 42 years as a keeper.
Oh.
He had 2 assistants under him.
Do you remember who they were?
J.B. Butler and his 6 children and his wife, and my uncle and aunt Floyd and Florence Quarterman.
Okay. And when did he retire? Do you remember?
My dad,
Mm-hmm.
when he was, when they made him retire, I guess it was...
About 1930, I think it was
it?
when he retired. Mm-hmm. And did you have any brothers and sisters?
I had 2, one sister and one brother.
And what were their names?
My sister was named Gertrude, and my brother was Clinton B.
Clinton.
Honeywell.
Okay. What was your? Who were your grandparents?
Who was what?
Your grandparents.
They were Wilsons, Henry Wilson and Frances Wilson.
Okay. Do you remember anything about Henry Wilson and Frances?
My grandfather was a postmaster there for a long time.
Okay.
That's about all I know about him. And my grandmother, she didn't do anything except raise flowers and things like that I remember.
Okay. And do you remember them, how about on your, do you remember the Burnhams?
No, not much about the Burnhams, no.
Okay.
That was my great-grandfather.
Right, and he was a lighthouse keeper from 1853 to
Yeah,
1886.
He was before my dad, of course.
Yes. So lighthouse keeping ran in the family, as they say, right?
The what?
Lighthouse keeping ran in the family.
I guess it did. I don't know.
Well, let's talk about when you were a child and growing up at the lighthouse. What did the area look like, the lighthouse and the compound? How many houses were there?
Well, there was 3 houses on my dad was in one of them, and the Butler's in one, and my aunt in the other. That was our living quarters. Then they had some storerooms out from what they had fenced in, the lighthouse reservation.
Okay. And how did you, when growing up, what did you do, you and your brother and your sister, to entertain yourself when you were just little ones, before you went to school? Can you remember?
Well, we had some swings underneath the house that my dad fixed up. He put 3 swings underneath the house. And we played under there and got in there and crawled around through the sand, made little sand piles and things. And after we got a little older, we played Pussy Wants a Corner. That was an old thing. And then we jumped rope, and of course we was a little older then, and it made stilts we'd walk on.
Stilts. Now,
Stilts.
Yeah. Now, what are stilts?
Broomsticks, and we nail little blocks on it and put our feet on, and hold on it and walk all over the place.
Oh, how fun!
We couldn't go up steps with them, though.
Never tried to get up the steps in the
We'd
lighthouse.
get on one step, that was it. We couldn't draw the
Did you play in the lighthouse at all?
No, except us girls, we'd go around behind the house where my dad couldn't see us. We'd crawl in the back window, get down in there and sew, make doll clothes. He didn't want us to go in there, you know, and he could see us if we went around up steps and went in. So we'd go around and crawl through the window.
Did you ever get to the top of the lighthouse at all?
Oh, yes, many a time.
Oh, what a marvelous sight. What did you see up there?
Just all over the roads and the old ponds and things that was out there.
Not very many houses in those days, were there?
No.
How about roads? Were they all sandy roads back then?
Yes, and sandy roads.
And what was the beach like and the water? Was it crystal clear? And
Oh, yes, it was nice. We'd go down there and go swimming just about a mile away from the lighthouse.
Oh.
We'd walk down there and get in swimming.
Did you shell at all? Did you find pretty shells on the beach? Mm-hmm. And I understand someone in the family used to make pictures and things out
My
of
mother.
shells. Yes. Well, how did she do that?
Well, she'd get any kind of a empty jar that was she could make a vase or something out of it, and she'd put putty on it, and then get the little shells and stick them in there, and then she'd paint it all around the shells.
Oh,
She made a fireboard, put in front of the fireplace,
oh yes.
picture the lighthouse on it.
Oh,
And then she's made, I don't know how many vases and sold them, little ones and big ones.
oh.
She was so smart, and I wasn't ever smart.
I understand that she used to braid palmetto too.
Oh yeah, make hats and baskets, and she used to sell them. She had a shop out of New York, and she'd sell the hats too.
Really?
Everybody wore hats then, you know.
Yes, that's right.
She made a man's hat, you know, those, I guess, what kind of hats you call those? It's got a hard rim around them.
Fedora?
Yeah, she made one of them for him.
Oh my.
I've helped her braid, but I never tried to sew a hat.
And I bet she made fans too.
Oh, yes, I had 2 of those, but I don't know where they are, so I think my daughter must have thrown them out, because I haven't seen them in a long time.
How about mosquito beaters? She used to make mosquito beaters.
And those big brushes, yes. And we had to build a smoke in a big can with rags and put some kind of bee brand insect powder to keep the mosquitoes away from us as best we could.
Can you relate some of the stories to me about how bad mosquitoes were back then?
Well,
How
they
thick
were
were
just terrible, that's all I know. And I've hauled weeds with my legs black with them. You know, we didn't wear long pants in those days. And they were just terrible. I'd just stomp and stomp.
Oh, boy. And how did you ever keep them out of the house?
We didn't.
Did you have to sleep under mosquito nets?
No.
No? You just swatted.
Yeah.
That's what the mosquito beaters were for, right? How about storms? How did you contend with storms out there?
Well, we never did have a storm that I know of. Just high winds, we called them then.
Yeah.
And we'd get out at the beach and swirl around in the wind and have a big time. And we could have been blown into water. We didn't think about it as a storm, you know.
You didn't know that was a hurricane,
No.
did you? As I understand, there was a big hurricane in about 1910 that blew straight for 24 hours. So you were just a year old then. You
Well, of
probably
course, I
didn't
don't
even know one came, did you?
I don't remember that one.
No. Where did you go to school?
Well, my dad had a teacher come over and stay at our house, and he fixed got some school desks, and I put them out in the storehouse, and we had our school out there, and I had a blackboard up.
And what was her name? Do you remember her name?
Virgie Richardson was one of their names.
Virgie Richardson.
And then one was Sam Knutson. He was a man. He taught for us. And I can't remember this lady's name. She was one of the elder ones.
But this was the Butler children, and how many Butler children
There were
were
6 Butler.
Okay, and
Because the older 2 didn't go to school. The younger ones only went to school.
okay. The 3 of you. There were 3 of you, and
My uncle and aunt didn't have any children.
didn't have any children. Okay. As I understand, all of you children played together, and you didn't go to town too often. How old were you when you made your first trip to the mainland?
I guess I was around 12 or something like that.
And tell me about the trip. How did you get to the mainland?
Well, we had to take a horse and wagon and go 5 miles to the river where the boat was, and then get on the boat and go on to Titusville.
What was your first impression when you saw Titusville?
Oh, well, it's something new and big, of course.
Did you get to go eat any ice cream?
Yeah.
And usually was it an all-day trip when you went into town?
Well, most of the day, yeah.
Yeah. Did your mother get the staples like flour and sugar and that type? Do you remember some of the stores that were down there at all?
The only one is Brady's store.
E.L. Brady's store, right? Yeah. Got it. Just about anything you wanted at Brady's store.
Yeah,
Did you? Yeah.
dry things like sugar and oatmeal and grits and stuff like that.
Did you have a garden?
Oh, yes, my mother had a wonderful garden.
And what were some of the things that she planted?
Corn and cabbage, carrots, and beets.
Now, what did you do for refrigeration?
What did we do?
Yeah, for free.
Nothing. We did not have a refrigerator and a light, running water, or either light.
You didn't have lights either?
No.
Oh,
We had to use kerosene lamps.
I see. That's right. There was no electricity out there, was there? Well, what did you do? Did you fish for your meat?
No, they'd catch them in the throw net or cast net.
Cast net? Okay. How about gopher turtles?
The what?
Gopher turtles. Did you eat gopher turtles? Gopher turtles?
My mother did. I didn't.
You did.
My mother and uncle did. I'd eat a little bit of the turtle.
Turtle?
The little turtle, their meat was white. But those big ones you got in the ocean, their meat was dark.
And did you ever eat any alligator?
No. No.
What were some of the animals that you used to see when you were a child out there?
Rabbits and rats and deer.
They were
And
deer.
of course, and the horses. Everybody had a horse.
Did you ever see a panther, a Florida panther?
And I don't think I ever saw one, but they were there.
They were there.
We had cows. I could see some cows.
How about bears?
Well, there was one bear we knew because my uncle killed him and hung him up a tree and skinned him.
Oh, and did you eat that?
Yes.
Was it good?
I wouldn't do it now. We'd eat anything then, I guess.
But I understand. Were there wild turkeys? Did you have wild turkey or birds, anything like that?
Have what?
Wild turkey or ducks?
Oh, plenty of ducks.
Plenty of ducks. We
No
used to have-
turkeys.
No turkeys out
They
there.
may have been there, but we didn't know about them.
Yeah. Do you remember anything about the Canaveral Club?
No, I
at all?
don't.
That was after you left. What was some of your favorite things that your mama made? for dinner, or cookies? Or did you have many cookies or pies, wild berry pies, or anything like that?
My mother used to make huckleberry pies. We used to go out in the woods and pick the huckleberries.
Huckleberry.
And she made huckleberry puddings and sea grape jelly. We would pick the sea grapes and had the sea grape jelly.
Interesting. And what did you do for entertainment in the evenings as a family? You played outside during the day, went to school, and then in the evenings, what was a typical evening like?
My parents went to bed so early we didn't have any entertainment at night. Oh, in one game we called Guess. We each would get a certain animal, and everybody would guess it, and if they got the right one, they would be the one to get their animal, and then we'd guess it. Things like that.
You played it. That was
We
nice.
used to lay out in the yard and study stars at night.
Oh, how interesting! I bet the skies were just beautifully clear, weren't they?
And we used to go out in the yard and we could talk kind of loud over the water, and our voice would come back to us just as plain as what we said. We called ourselves tranquillities.
Oh,
But that was funny. You could hear your voice come back to you every time you'd say anything.
that's interesting. That's very-
Yvonne, she couldn't understand that. And I said, well, that's what happened.
Do you remember phosphorus ever being in the water at night when you glowing phosphorus in the water that made sparkles?
No.
No. What was Christmas like at the lighthouse?
Well, we'd all get up early in the morning, and we had a little tree there my mother fixed, and a few little presents, and that's about all.
Was the stocking the biggest thing?
Yes.
What did you used to get?
Put
in
all
your-
little things in it.
What was the very favorite thing that you got in your stocking in the toe? Do you remember?
Well, there's any little thing, a ruler. I had one of those rulers, 6 inches, and I had it up to this day, but it's gone now. I don't know where it is.
Really? Oh, really? Did you ever get oranges in your toes or tangerines? That's because you were good all the time, right? And what was Christmas dinner like? What did you?
Well,
used
my
to-
mother, after we were bigger, we got a turkey. You had to order your turkey then, and when the stores wasn't full of them like they are now. If you wanted a turkey, you had to order it ahead, and they'd keep it for you, and then we'd go get it.
That was a big thing to have turkey for Thanksgiving. I mean, for Christmas, wasn't it? How about the 4th of July?
Well, we'd all try to have a watermelon. That's about all.
Yeah. And you had picnics out there? Did you have picnics outside on the
Oh,
beach?
yeah, little ones. A few. There wasn't enough people out to have a picnic.
What did you do about church? Were there any churches there?
There used to be a preacher that had come from somewhere. His name was Reverend Boyd. I don't know where he'd come from, but my dad would have preaching in the old storehouse. They'd all gather there and have their sermons and talking things. And then after we got through there, we'd all go over to my grandmother's place in the wagon, and in their old kitchen, they'd all get together and have more singing and service and so forth.
This was the Wilsons?
You know.
Yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
And then the few families that was near would come there, you know.
So, and was this every Sunday or like once a month or
Oh,
something?
once a year or 2 or 3.
Yeah.
He'd come up somewhere, I don't know where.
Yeah, they used to be circuit preachers, and he probably came from Titusville or New Smyrna, possibly. And do you remember the river boats that used to come up and down the river? Or the ocean liners, the steamers, did they used to come by and stop
They had
by?
one of those stern wheel steamers.
Stern wheels, yeah.
I think his name is Cone, Mr. Cone.
Mr. Cone,
I
yeah.
think.
And did the people come by and see you? Stop by?
Yes, they'd come and stop at my Burns's dock.
And when did you get mail? Do you remember how you got mail?
Well, when I remember the first mail, they'd bring it from Merritt Island in a boat and take it to the post office, wherever it was. It moved so many times. And then we'd get our mail at the little post office.
Uh-huh. Did you have to go pick it up?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. And did you say that when you were young you had a horse and wagon?
That's all we had.
Yeah. And
The government furnished that for us. That was our car.
yeah, that's right. And then you would go down to the wharf and take a boat across.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. And did you take the horse and wagon on the boat?
Oh, no.
Oh, so you left the horse and wagon, and then how did you get from the boat dock in Titusville after you got to Titusville? Was it right downtown?
No, I would have to tie at a dock
Yeah.
and then get up on it and walk in.
And you walked into town. Oh, so that was not an easy chore to go
No.
to town, was it?
No, we never went to, except the men folks went by themselves.
I understand that you loved to go, when you were older, you loved to go dancing at the Cape Canaveral Hotel. Tell us about that. That must have been wonderful. And where was it located?
Well, there was one up at we called it Lansing Beach. That was at Canaveral, and we used to dance there. And then we had one later down the beach. And we used to all get together there and dance, have a lot of fun.
What kind of dancing did you do?
Two-step, one-step, and waltz, and foxtrot,
The Charleston?
Charleston. Yeah, anything that was going then.
And who provided the music?
Well, we had a man, he'd play some kind of music, and then sometimes we'd have a graphophone, a record, and play it.
Oh, that's
And
interesting.
we had one man, he'd call for the square dances.
Uh-huh.
See, Roy Worley was his name. He lived on Merritt Island, but he was a good square dance caller.
Oh, wonderful. And people from the community used to come to these dances?
Yeah, some from Cocoa even would come over there.
Really?
Mhm.
And they were held like on Saturday night?
Yes.
That was the big night for the dancing, huh?
Yes.
Yeah. I understand your father, Clinton Honeywell, used to test flag material. Tell us about that.
About what?
How your father used to test the material for
Oh,
the American flags.
Oh, he had the government put up 6 flags, whatever you call it, and he had to hoist the flag every morning, either one of those, and take it down every night.
And he was testing the.
Yeah, the material to see which one stood the weather best.
Yeah.
We got a picture of him on TV. The first time they put me on, my father's on, they were holding his flag up.
And he would do a report on which one withstood the salt air and the winds and everything else for the companies.
They didn't tell me, or I don't know now. Maybe I told him, and
Yeah, yeah.
they all looked alike to me.
Well, tell us about how you met your husband. How did you meet him?
Meet who?
Your husband.
Well, up at the Lansing Beach Hotel, they had a place underneath the hotel where they had little stalls to change bathing suits, and we was all out swimming one time. That's before I really knew him, and I was holding to one of those inner tubes, and I started going out with one of these out tides taking you out, and I got scared, and I turned the inner tube loose, which is the craziest thing I should have done. And he was there. He saw me, so he come out and got me. That's the way I met him.
And when were you married?
What?
When were you married?
When I was 23 now. What year was that? I don't know. $19-something.
1932.
1932.
You were 23 years old?
I was 23, yeah. He was 29.
Where did you live after you were married? Did you move over to the mainland?
Well, he was worked with construction companies. He moved all around the place. He didn't really, have a place to stay. And so there was a little house being built right next to where my mother was. And she said, I wish that house was yours. And so those people left, and my mother bought that, and that was my house.
Oh.
So we'd come back to that, and he'd go around, and we'd come back to that house.
And this was in Titusville?
No, Cocoa.
Cocoa. Oh, you went all the way to Cocoa.
And that house of mine's been sold, and it's been remodeled. And Yvonne was just telling me about it. It's it's the best remodeled house that's ever been put there.
Really?
And,
Where was it located in Cocoa?
Well, up out where Broadview Manor, I don't know if you know where Broadview Manor is. It's up past that shopping center. What is it? Bird Plaza?
Bird
do you know?
Plaza, uh-huh.
It's about a mile up past Bird Plaza.
And did you have any children?
I had 3,
3. And what were their names?
Yvonne, Valine, and James.
And they're all still living?
Yes.
Wonderful.
My son's up in Maryland, and Valine's on Merritt Island, and Yvonne's up here, Titusville.
Good, good. One thing that we were talking about earlier were the palmetto berries over on the island. Tell me about that industry. That was quite interesting that they used to do that.
Well, they used to sell them. Then everybody had their trays, or whatever you call it,
Drying vats.
let them dry out and put them in bags and sell them. And there's one kind that had full of honey, and they would taste really good. But you better not get a hold of the ones that didn't taste good. They was terrible.
Were they bitter?
They weren't good at all. But they sold all of them.
Yeah, they sold them for
Medicine.
Medicine, yeah. It was quite a big industry there. What were some of the remedies that your mother used to use when you were a child? Who was the local doctor that used to?
No doctors. We didn't have any doctors. No hospitals. No nothing. No drugstores.
So how did she take care of you when you became ill? What are some of the home remedies?
Wasn't any.
You just got better.
Like my grandmother, when my mother had a big place on her foot bleeding, my grandmother saw it, and she grabbed up a bunch of old spider webs and put on it. That stopped it.
And that would coagulate
And then
the
my
blood.
brother, he stuck a horseshoe crab tail in his foot, and my uncle took a razor blade and cut down around it and pushed it out, and then filled it in a hole full of iodine. Now we didn't have any remedies. And I know the doctors used to tell us when they got a little older that my tonsils should come out. Well, my mother wouldn't have them taken out. She'd make me sit around the house with my mouth full of salt. And I got my tonsil today. They haven't been taken out, so that must have been all right.
That must have healed them, right?
But I think about it now, there's no doctors, no nothing, no hospitals. I don't see what people really did then.
Well, you probably were healthier back then.
I know one of my aunts, she was raising hogs, and she got in a pen with them, and one of the old ones had tusks. He stuck his tusk in her leg, and she didn't take care of it or treat it or anything, and it went into cancer. So she had to have her leg cut off right up here. And my mother and her sister and one of my uncles took care of her day and night, day and night, day and night, till she passed away.
Oh, my.
There was no hospitals to take her to, no places,
Yeah.
no nursing homes.
Yeah.
Nobody knows what it was to live. I don't see how we got along.
Yeah. No electricity? You
No electricity, no running water, and no nothing.
Did you have a well?
Well, we pumped water from the ground.
Yeah, pumped water from the ground.
And some of them had, what do you call these?
Cisterns.
No, the
Windmills.
yeah.
Windmills. Yeah, yeah.
And there was some of the water was what we call red water. If you washed your clothes in it, it would turn them terrible. And then the next pipe we put down would have white water. You could wash your clothes in that. And if you'd boil that red water, it'd have the red settlement in it. And then it was all right.
It was full of iron, probably.
It tasted awful, that whole yard. I mean, well water, whatever you call it.
Yeah. Do you remember when you were younger? Do you remember having any cold winters? Any cold weather at all?
Oh yeah, it was kind of cold.
What did you do in the cold? With the wind blowing out there on the Cape, and when it got cold, how did you keep warm?
We didn't.
Did you just load up the feather bed with lots of blankets?
I remember one night I was so cold, I didn't want to go to bed. I just sit on the edge of the bed and I wasn't going to go to bed. We had some fireplaces. You'd put the fire, it was warm till the fire went out and then it would get cold.
Yeah.
But we didn't have any way to heat it.
Did you have citrus trees out at the Cape? Did you get any oranges from Dummett's Grove at all?
Well, down at my grandmother's, we had plenty of oranges.
At the Wilsons, they had plenty of oranges, and they used
All
to bring
kinds of
them
fruit she had.
up. Yeah, they used to bring them up to you.
What?
That's where you used to get them.
Oh yeah,
the
we go
oranges. So
there.
you had plenty of fresh fruit then too.
Oh yes, all kinds. She had more sugar apples and all different peaches.
Oh, peaches.
Peaches, yeah. And she had some flat peaches. I don't ever see them.
Flat peaches.
Yeah, they're flat. You see, peaches are puffy.
Yes. Huh. Do you remember, were there any pineapples being grown out there when you were a little girl? Can you remember the
They were
pineapples?
going down toward Palm Beach. There was a pineapple patch, but it finally went out.
Yeah. Did you, how much did you travel around when you were a teenager? Did you go down to Cocoa or over to Sanford or any place like that at all?
No.
So you just stayed local.
We stayed right there around the lighthouse and around my grandmother's place.
Now, when you got older, did you go to high school in Titusville?
No, we went to Cocoa.
You went to Cocoa.
They had a bridge then. We went to go in on a bus.
And who was the bus driver? Do you remember her name?
My cousin, Catherine Burns.
Catherine Burns. Okay. And what was the bus like that you took?
Well, just like a little, I don't know, had little seats in it. like
Little wooden bus? Was it a little wooden bus? Do you remember Ethel Battle and Carl Battle at all?
Battle.
Battle. They used to drive a school bus.
In Titusville, wasn't it?
Yes,
What was her name now?
Ethel Battle.
Yeah.
And Carl Battle. They used to have a little school bus.
I think we had a picture of that in some of our pictures Yvonne's got. She should have anyway. It might be gone.
Yeah. Can you do you remember what it was like to get the family all together for a gathering? Did you have a lot of relatives come?
We didn't have a lot of
reunions?
relatives.
You didn't have a lot of relatives? Okay.
But once in a while, we'd a few of us get together and have cake and baked beans and things.
Do you remember anything about some of the people who used to live in the community that later on down the line, you mentioned the Butlers, and whatever happened to these people? Do you remember what happened to them?
No, I don't. The Butlers moved away to a house on the Banana River, and from then on, I don't know where they went.
Okay. I understand you had a very special young lady who was your friend, whose last name was Key. Tell us a little bit about her and what her relationship was to a very famous person.
Virginia Key. I stayed with them at their house part of my school years.
And who was she a relative of?
Francis Scott Key. I think that's what Yvonne said, Francis Scott Key.
Francis Scott Key. And you still were friends with her well after you were grown, weren't you?
Oh, yes. I was at her wedding when she got married.
Oh.
I was her best lady, I guess.
Oh, and where did she get married?
Right there in Cocoa, in her house.
At her Cocoa, and that's where
in her mother's house, rather.
And that's where they lived, in Cocoa.
No, they lived in Cocoa, but they had an apartment.
And what was your first car that you can remember riding in? Your very first car. Can you remember what it was like?
I guess it was an old Ford car or one of those Chevrolets. I don't really remember.
What?
No, they had no roll-up windows. It had.
Did it have a rumble seat in the back?
Oh, Lordy. The one that was in the back seat stood the dickens. Woo. And my dad, he didn't want a car that had windows in it.
Oh, really? He didn't want one?
But he finally got one.
Oh, goodness. What was it like during the war years when the war broke out? What was that like around here? Did a lot of the young boys go away to war?
I guess so. There wasn't many boys there, but
And
I guess they went. And I remember the main thing is that we had this old flour. It made the bread brown. And we couldn't get used to old brown bread. We was always used to white flour, you know. But now I like the brown bread.
and that's what you used to get during the war years?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all I can remember, to get that old ugly flour, we called it.
Things were scarce back then, weren't they? Can you think of any funny stories about the family, or some of the funny things that happened over at the lighthouse when you were a little girl? For instance, did your mama make you dresses, your clothes? Did your mother make your clothes?
Yes, she sewed.
Yeah. And because there weren't any places to buy
No.
clothes, right?
They used to order from Montgomery's or Sears a little piece of cloth, and she'd cut it out and make it something. Even our underclothes she'd make.
Really?
Yeah.
Isn't that something? Well, what was your favorite dress? Do you remember what your favorite dress looked like?
Well, I had a kind of white with pink on it and lace around the. I've got a picture of me standing on the lighthouse steps with that on.
Oh, how pretty.
I was about 11 years old, I guess.
Did you have any pets over there?
Cats, and we had a dog one time,
What was the dog's name?
Ben.
Ben?
One night, my mother had gone to the lighthouse. This is the older time. My sister and I were staying at our grandmother's house. We heard that little dog holler outside, so we went out, and he was hollering under the porch, and we heard a rattlesnake under there. So we went down to my uncle's house for him to come up and see if we could get him. Well, we couldn't hear that snake anymore. So the next day, he come out from under the house, and the ear was going off down. My sister got that gun, and she went and bang, got him. We made the little dog come in the room with us and stay that night.
Oh, bless your heart. You had talked about one of the delights that you used to watch the big sea turtles come in. Tell us about the sea turtles that used to come in.
Well, you had to go to the beach at night, and if you saw one coming in, you'd be still and wouldn't let him see you. If he saw you once, he'd turn around and go back. But you let him get out of the water once, he wouldn't go back. He'd just keep going up. We used to sit on his back and ride.
Did you ever watch them lay their eggs?
Yeah. He dug the hole. He digged his hole and put his eggs with his back feet. And then he covers them up and pats them down. Then turn around and go right back to water.
Did you ever watch the eggs hatch with all the little ones come out?
No.
No.
My mother used to take one or two of the eggs to cook. She liked them a little bit, not much. And so the white of a turtle egg won't turn white.
Oh.
And the yellow, it turns yellow, but it's mushy. Us kids wouldn't touch
eat
them.
it.
And my mother, she liked it a little bit. So she'd get one or two. And so if she'd find a turtle nest, she had a wire, and she'd poke down in the ground. And when she knew she hit the nest, she'd dig down there and get one or two of the eggs. If you touched them now, they'd put you in jail.
That's right. That's right. Do you remember any wildflowers that used to grow on the beach at all? Do you remember along the dune lines some of the flowers, passion flowers, or
Some of these red, yellow, what do they call them?
lantana, gaillardia? No, they look like a big daisy. Do
They're
they
like a
look
daisy or something like that.
Yeah,
And,
gaillardias.
of course, a lot of little wildflowers. I didn't know the name of them.
Yeah. Do you ever remember any morning glories, wild morning glories
yeah,
growing along the
They're
vines?
kind of purple looking.
Like kind of purple. They used to grow wild all over the beach, didn't they? It's hard to believe that they used to do that. And passion flowers used to grow in certain areas along the beach also. Were there a lot of dunes out at the lighthouse? Did the wind blow dune lines or big piles of sand on the
Yeah, they
beach?
call them sand hills, I think they
Sand hills.
called them. Yeah.
Yeah.
We used to go out there and pull up the sea oats and eat the little tender bottom. If you'd go touch one of them now, you'd get put in jail.
Yeah.
So we used to pull them up and eat the bottom of it. It's real tender.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? And there were a lot of them too,
Oh,
weren't there?
yeah, man.
All over the place.
But I think most of them weren't pulled up now.
Was the beach real wide then out there?
Well, at times when it's low tide,
And it was pretty wide, wasn't it? And what was the sand like? Was the sand white or was it gritty?
they're white.
It was real pretty. Yeah, that's I
White,
understand. It was real white and real pretty. Do you remember when you were a little girl any of the shipwrecks they had out on the beach?
They didn't really have shipwrecks. We had one, we never did even see the little boat. With the men come off of it up at Canaveral Beach, and they come in down through the woods, down to the lighthouse. And I don't remember how many was with there, quite a few men. And my dad put them in the storehouse for overnight. And then my mother, next morning, she cooked oatmeal fed them all that bunch of people.
Oh.
And then they went on back to their boat, and we never did see it. And I don't really know what happened to it. They had a big cat, a big white cat. It had a yellow tail and some yellow around his head. And one of them gave it to my sister. And the boat's name was Albert Sofa, so we named the cat Albert Sofa.
Oh.
And we kept him. And then finally we had to move over to go to school. And we didn't want to take the cat because the other cats would fight with him. So we let our aunt have him.
Mm-hmm.
And we got some pictures of him. He was a pretty cat.
That was like having another little playmate, wasn't
Yeah.
it? How did the dog and cat get along, though?
Well, we didn't have the cat. The dog was only gone.
Oh, okay. So you didn't have them at the same time, so that worked out pretty good. So is there anything else that you can think about the good old days or the bad old days or the in-between days you'd like to tell me about when you were a child or when you were a teenager? You didn't do too much courting out there because there was nobody to court, was there? What happened to the Cape Canaveral Hotel, the dance hall? Do you remember what happened to it? Did it burn down?
After we left there, I don't know what happened.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you remember where DeSoto Beach was?
DeSoto?
Yeah, DeSoto Beach.
I've heard of it, but I don't know just where it was.
Okay. Who used to live in Artesia?
No, I didn't live there.
No. Do you know any of the families that used to live in Artesia? Do you remember any of them?
My uncle's sister lived there.
What was their name? Do you remember?
Well, Chandler. And
Chandler?
Her name is Bernice.
Bernice
They
Chandler.
called her Birdie.
Birdie.
And she had 2 children. Let's see, Lorena and Wilkinson.
Wilkinsons.
Wilkinson.
Yes, they were an old family, pioneering family. Do you remember a place called Happy Creek?
No,
No. Do you know Mr. Jandro?
oh yes.
Yeah. What did he used to do?
I don't really know.
He was a fisherman.
Oh, was he a fisherman?
Yeah, a lot of us. Yeah.
Yeah, I went to school as children.
You did.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Uh-huh.
Let's see, it was what was her name? Chandler. She's dead now anyway. Can't seem to remember her name.
Are you going to go to the big reunion this coming weekend at Cape Canaveral Light?
I really don't know.
Oh, that's wonderful that all the descendants of the families who lived out there, and of course you're probably the only surviving person who has lived at the lighthouse.
I am.
correct?
I'm the only one.
The only one left. And I think that's a legacy in itself to be here to talk about the lighthouse. And I know what I wanted to ask you. What did your house look like? How big was your house?
Well, it was a 2-story house and had 2 big porches and 3 rows of steps, one this side, one over there, and then one in the back.
How many bedrooms did it have?
I had 2 upstairs, and I guess one upstairs was my dad's room downstairs, and then we made a little living room out of one of them. I guess you'd only say 2 bedrooms, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Unless somebody wanted to use that other one downstairs for a bedroom instead of a living room.
Okay. And what did the inside of the lighthouse look like? Can you,
Inside?
yes, the inside of the lighthouse.
Well, in the downstairs part, they had closet. People were supposed to live in there, you know.
In the lighthouse itself.
Yeah, inside they had closets in some of the rooms down in the bottom part of the lighthouse.
And I understand the steps are very steep.
Yeah, and nobody ever lived in them. They had the houses to live in, so why would they want to go in them?
To live in the lighthouse. That's right. That's right. Well, after a while, were you able to go over to the mainland for your provisions and everything on a regular basis?
Oh yeah,
and
after a
get
while
mail?
ago, they got the bridges and they had cars later on, and we could go over whenever we wanted to.
Did you ever want to return to live at the lighthouse?
No, because it wasn't very nice not having any electricity or anything, you know.
And
Running water. We had to pump all our water. I've pumped a many a gallon trying to wash clothes.
oh my, how did your mother ever do laundry for 3 children? Pumped a lot of water. What did you use for soap?
Old bar soap, Octagon.
Octagon. And I bet she had a clothesline, right?
Oh, sure.
What were some of the chores that you used to do? Did you ever help your dad with the chores at the lighthouse? Did your brother?
No, nobody, because all they did was carry kerosene up to the top. They'd carry a 5-gallon can, either one of the ones that was going on duty.
Did anybody come out and work with your father? Another man?
No, well, he had those 2
Mr. Butler and
Quarterman.
Quarterman.
They just took shifts, 4-hour shifts.
Okay. Did you used to play games with the lighthouse flashing at night?
No.
Do you remember I read an article one time that said that it was sort of a rhythm that went with the lighthouse, with the beam going around, and it put you to sleep at night.
I don't know.
Did you ever remember doing that?
No.
No?
It does make a noise if you're up in the top. Well, it could put you to sleep if you just sit there and listen at it, just buzzing. This is regular.
Regular buzzing sound. Well, is there anything else that you'd like to talk about today that you can think of? Any funny old stories?
Well, I don't know. It's funny. My brother and I decided we wanted to go out after one of the storms, and all the low places would fill up with water. So we were going to walk over to my grandmother's place. So here we started out on foot. We went through savannas up to our waist in water.
Oh, my.
2 or 3 of them before we got to my grandmother's place. And we stayed over there with them until we dried off. Then we went out on a county road and got to the beach and walked up the beach to another road going into the lighthouse, and went through more water up to our waist. And I stepped on a turtle, so it didn't bite me. But we made it up before dark.
My goodness. Did you ever come upon any alligators out there in the savannas or anything?
No, I've seen a little, I don't know where it ever come from, a little alligator. They're yellow when they're little.
Oh.
And he was out in outside of our fence. And I don't know where he come from. I didn't see any more.
Isn't that interesting? Huh. Did you ever see any wild hogs out there? Were there any wild hogs?
Well, there was pigs. I don't know where they were. I guess they were wild.
Yeah.
They used to go right by our line. And my uncle built a pen, and he knew this old pig was going to have babies, so he put her in a pen, got us coaxed her in there, and so she had a baby. So after they got old enough, he let her go, kept the babies in there. So he had him some little pigs to cook. We had them named Firecracker, one of them. And I remember the school teacher wouldn't eat any of it because she said we'd be eating firecracker.
Did you have regular school books when the school marm came?
Oh, yeah.
Now, did she stay at the lighthouse?
She stayed with us.
She stayed with you. She boarded with you. That's
Yes,
what they used to do. Okay. And can you remember the names of some of the books that you used to use for your reading, writing, and arithmetic?
Well, they were the school books, whatever they were then, but I don't remember.
McGuffey's? McGuffey readers, did you used to use? McGuffey readers?
I don't remember the names of the books, but they were school books. What they gave us, whatever they were, I don't remember.
Do you remember some of the childhood songs you used to sing?
We didn't used to sing songs that I know of.
At school?
That's the reason I couldn't sing. I never tried to sing when
You didn't sing, huh?
I remember after they were older, this one singing, let's see that, Gather by the River.
Oh, yeah, that's a hymn. We shall gather at the river. Yeah, yeah.
But I never tried to sing. I wouldn't try. So this day I can't try. I can't sing because I wouldn't try to sing.
Did you ever have any musical instruments at the lighthouse? Guitars or
No.
anything like that?
We had an old graphophone.
An old graphophone? What were some of the music? Do you remember any of the spindles that you used to play on it? Any of the old timers? Do you remember any of their names?
No, I remember some of the old, let's see, Casey Jones was one of them. He kissed his wife at the station door, and when he turned around, the train turned the bend, they knew by the sound of the whistle that the man at the throttle was Casey Jones. I remember part of that.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah. Did you ever ride on the train? No? Did you, when the train used to come into Titusville, did you ever hop the train to ride the train? No.
I don't know when they had the train.
Yeah.
But
Okay. Well, is there anything else you'd like to tell me about anything? What do you think you would like to have the people remember most about the lighthouse that's still standing after all these years?
Well, I don't know. There's nothing I know it could do. We should stay there.
And keep shining its light.
That's shining the light. That used to shine 18 miles out in the ocean
18
to
miles.
keep the boats off the shoals. So I don't know what they do now to keep them off. I guess they got instruments.
Yeah.
And the name of the ship that used to bring the fuel into the lighthouse was named Cypress.
Cypress.
And it used to come, and when it would out there, it'd blow its big whistle. When we'd hear that whistle, we'd take off for the beach. My dad would put his uniform on, his cap, and he'd take off down to the beach. And then the Cypress would anchor out there and put the fuel in a little boat and bring it in as close as they could to the shore, and then throw the oil out. It was in 10 boxes, 5-gallon cans on. And they'd throw it up, and then they'd bring it further and put it way up on the beach, bring it as much as they're supposed to. And then we'd take a horse and wagon and haul it to the lighthouse.
Oh, so that's how you got the fuel.
Mm-hmm.
So you helped your dad do that, huh?
Mm-hmm.
And all the children helped do that?
Oh, well, no, the men folks did that because I was too heavy for us at that time.
Okay, the men, but you did.
And then they had a house up there. In fact, the house is still there except the top's out of it. They used to put the oil in at the lighthouse. It's down at the bottom.
Yeah, the oil house.
They said they was going to repair it and put a top, but they haven't done it.
Yeah, well, maybe they will one of these.
I don't know. And us kids made us a smokehouse out of those boxes, you know. We're going to smoke us some fish. So we put the little wire across the inside and had us boxes all up there and had the leaves and things to smoke it. We was going to have us some smoked fish. Well, we went up to the house and we turned around and our smokehouse was on fire. So we went down there and saved our old smoked fish. That taught us a lesson not to use wood to make a smokehouse out of.
Well, we thank you for visiting with us today and for telling us some very interesting stories about an era that has gone by and probably will never be again, and for sharing your memories of living at the lighthouse and your family and some of the goings-on in the era of when you were a young lady. And
Well, Yvonne might remember, make me think of some things. She used to say, how about this? You want to call her in here and see if she thinks of anything? Or you got time?
Oh, sure. Why don't we?
I'll have to change tape.
Okay.
See if there's anything I...
Okay. Change that you can see in this century from the time that you were a child, like rockets going off and the computers and all that type of thing, okay?
Well, about the...
Wait a minute.
Just wait.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What?
And the cars. Did you tell them about the touring car that Grandpa used to?
Yeah, the little old Fords and
Okay.
Chevrolets. That's the first cars he had.
Okay. What is the biggest change in this century that you think happened in this area or in the United States? What was the biggest change? How about the rockets? What do you think
Well,
about them?
the missiles and things are going up. They're about the biggest things, I think. And the change in the cars and everything, they've made them so much better than they first out, you know,
What
and
do you-
computers and all this stuff that they got. And they've done away with Greg's shorthand, and that's the kind I took, a shorthand, Greg's, and I don't know what kind. They don't even use shorthand now. They used to really have that to be a secretary.
Right. And what do you think about the missile program out there?
Well, I think it's wonderful. Of course, I don't understand much about it. And I haven't been able to read much. I can't see very good to read anything anymore. I just read headlines, so I can't keep up with things like I used to, you know.
We were talking earlier about some of the inconveniences that you used to have out at the lighthouse, and one of them, of course, was the lack of electricity. The mosquitoes ate you alive, and then, of course, we had outdoor plumbing, so to
Yes.
speak. What was that like?
Well, it was terrible. We didn't have any running water, or no electricity, nothing like that.
Okay. And as I understand, did you have a one-holer or a two-holer?
And we used the Sears and Roebuck, Sears and Roebuck catalog and newspapers for toilet paper. We didn't even know such a thing as toilet paper.
Isn't that something? And what were some of the what happened to your grandma's house? I understand it caught on fire. What happened to it?
Well, it didn't, it was the old kitchen part. They had this old terracotta pipe, and it went up and turned down like that. I don't see how it hadn't caught on fire before. And one of her daughters was out in the yard, and they pointed up there, and the thing was just beginning to blaze up. So they have to have a ladder, and my sister and brother got that ladder, and I pumped water, and they went up there, threw it up there, and got the fire out, or the whole place would have been burned up. Because all of the houses were so close. If that big kitchen, they had the kitchen way away from, I mean, not way away, but just out away from the rest of the houses, you know. That used to be the way they did, had the kitchen out. And I don't see how in the world it went all those years without ever getting caught on fire with that pipe like it was. Because the smoke and stuff would go up there and turn down. And that's the first time it's ever been on fire in 100 years, I guess.
Good grief. What do you remember most about your grandmother and grandfather?
About
The
what?
Wilsons. What do you remember most about the Wilsons? What kind of people were they? What did they like to do?
Well, they didn't do nothing much. My grandfather was a postmaster, but my grandmother, I never seen her. She was real old, and she never do much of anything except wash some dishes and then sit in a chair.
She was being a grandma.
She was, she couldn't see with her eyes, so she didn't really do anything. But in her younger days, she raised all kinds of flowers and things.
Oh.
Of course, they were still growing there, but she couldn't do anything much because her eyes had gone bad. So she just sit in a chair most of the time, like me. I sit in the chair most of the time.
Yeah. And Henry Wilson was the postmaster. Did he have the post? Where was the post office? At his house?
Just one of the little rooms had a little place where they put the letters in. And then they move it so many times, I don't know how in the world they kept up with it.
Yeah.
Move it here, somebody be running. Move it somewhere else, and somebody else would be running. Then it moves some.
Do you remember anything about a peak camp?
A what?
A peak camp.
No.
We have a photograph of a peak camp, and I was wondering what that is. It says Daddy's Peak Camp.
I don't know what was it supposed to be.
I don't know. It's here in Florida somewhere. That would be interesting.
I don't know anything about that.
Okay. What was your reaction the first time you lived in Cocoa when you were a young lady, right? After you got married, you moved to Cocoa, or did you move to Cocoa before you got married?
We moved to Cocoa before.
Before you got married?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And how old were you when you moved to Cocoa? About 22?
Around that, I got married at 23.
So it was so it was before you were 23 years old. And do you remember the bridge that came over from Merritt Island back then at Harrison Street?
The old wooden bridge.
The old wooden bridge in
It
Cocoa?
got so bad that the school bus would stop on a place where it was bad about and let us get out of the bus and walk past that, and then she'd go across and then pick us up again.
That was bad, wasn't it? well, what was downtown Cocoa like back then? Pretty thriving?
Oh yeah, you could drive in it.
You could drive in it. Did it have paved streets?
Yes.
Did it? Oh, that was pretty modern.
Yeah, they had automobiles then, you know, and they had to have roads they could go on.
Yeah, yeah. Do you remember when you were a little girl, when you came to Titusville, did they have paved roads in Titusville when you were a little girl? Or still
Had
have
what?
paved roads in Titusville when
Yeah.
you came in here?
Yeah, just like they had cars and things then in Titusville too.
Yeah. Do you remember Mr. Brady at all?
I've never seen him at
No, at the grocery store. Do you remember Denham's?
what?
Do you remember Denham's?
Denham's, yeah.
Yeah.
That was a dry goods store.
A
wasn't
dry
it?
goods store, yeah.
Denham.
Yeah, used to go there and get dry goods. And do you remember Pritchard's Hardware?
Who?
Pritchard's Hardware store.
Pritchard, yeah.
Yeah, Captain Pritchard.
Like, what is that on in Cocoa?
Travis.
Travis.
Yeah,
Travis. Oh.
yeah. And the boats used to come up there, didn't they? Do you remember ever going to the Brevard Hotel down in Cocoa?
Oh, yeah, I worked there after I got grown.
Oh, you did?
I worked there for about 8 years
Oh,
as a switchboard operator.
as a switchboard operator.
But they don't have switchboards now.
No. Well, what was working like a switchboard operator like? How did you do that? What was yeah, you actually talked to the people, right?
Yeah, but down to the Brevard Hotel, I called it a dead switchboard. But where I liked the switchboards, up at the Dixie Motel, they were busy. Kept you going and pulling cords. You had to be careful you'd pull the wrong one out. I remember I was there working one day and my son happened to be there on the outside. And I kept putting poles in, he looked over the top to see what in the world I was doing. I liked that. It was busy, you know. But down there, of course, I had the desk too, so I didn't have to sit right by the switchboard down at the Brevard Hotel.
What was the Brevard Hotel like in those days? Describe it.
Well, it was a big old building. It had 4 stories and had the old antique furniture in it, and had a great big porch in the front and back.
Did it have a lot of people come and stay there,
Quite a few, yes.
especially in the wintertime?
No, just any time they'd come and go.
Okay. And was there a street in front of the hotel that you walked up and down? A street, the street.
Yeah, there was a street, but I mean, what in the world was that name? Might have been Brevard Avenue. I just went on it. I don't know what I remember what it was.
Yeah. And what was one of the really nice places that you could go eat dinner at down there? Do you remember Hub's Inn at all?
Oh yeah, they say that was a wonderful place.
Yeah. Did you ever go there?
Yes, I've been up there.
Can you describe it? Where it was on the river?
Yeah, it was on the river, and it looked like an old run-down place to me.
I remember you used to be able to see through the water through the cracks in the floor, but the food was delicious.
Served good food.
Yes, it was. That was really a great place, wasn't it? Do you remember Mert Tharp? Do you remember Mert's soda fountain?
Was that restaurant?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? They used to have.
Well, I remember the name now. I don't remember much about the restaurant
Yeah.
because I never went to it. I know of.
Do you remember Chastine's restaurant?
Yes,
Just over on the other corner.
but I don't need to go to that either.
520. Yeah. What were some of the places that you used to go shopping in Cocoa that aren't there anymore? Do you remember the stores? Do you remember the Five and Dime downtown? What was the?
And then On the Rubens. Rubens. Was that the name of that big, had dresses, clothes? Reuben Brothers?
Reuben Brothers.
I think that's what it was.
Whether do you remember Neisner's Five and Dime? That was
Yeah.
down there where Threadneedle Street is. Do you remember anybody who used to live in that area that was really really quite prominent in the neighborhood?
No.
No. Do you remember anybody who used to come on a regular basis to the Brevard Hotel?
Well, there was, some people would come for certain things, but I don't really remember what it was. They'd come, and then they'd go out playing golf, and so many people I couldn't remember all the names.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't know if anybody of importance or anything that you could remember that was well known that came in there on a regular basis or anything. Yeah. Okay. Well, we thank you very much, and I think you've told us a very nice story today, Mrs.
Now, you're not going to put me on TV now again.
Well, we don't know. We might just do that.
I haven't even seen myself on the last one yet.
Well, this is great, and we really appreciate it. Yes, you have taped some. Well, thank you so very much.